Good afternoon, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to welcome you to today's town hall meeting. The focus of today's meeting is on the future planning for the golf course. As with many projects that run through Stonebridge, this has been an ongoing project under the Committee of Golf and Green. They've been working on this since last year. Mr. Maglione, chair of the Golf and Green Committee, will introduce our architect shortly. And working with the architect, after we had meetings with management and the committee, we held some focus groups back in January, and we'll talk more about that today. And then ultimately, our architect came back with some revisions to the plans, and that brings us to today, so we can get more member input. That's the whole idea of today's meeting, is so that you can get a first look at this and offer some additional member input. And we'll also be putting information up on the website for those that couldn't attend, and we're also videotaping the session. So with that, I will turn it over to Tony Maglione, our chair of our Golf and Green Committee.
Okay, first thing I want to say is that Tim's going to control the PowerPoint because I can't do two things at once. And by the way, those of you that are here because of the open bar afterwards, I hate to tell you, but that's just a rumor. It's not a fact. So, please, sorry about that. Okay. Well, good afternoon and welcome. I think the crowd indicates that this is a topic that is some interest to the community. And, I'm very pleased to see that. Now, we're going to talk about planning for the next golf course renovation. Now, I'm sure the first question is, when are we going to have that happen? Okay. That's the tentative date. That's what we're going to use today as we discuss this. Now, that could change. There's a number of factors that have to go into this. The most important will be the input from the membership. Now, why are we talking about this so far in advance? Well, if it is 2023, we have about really 2 years to decide what we really want to do. I don't know about you, but as I get older, time seems to go by a lot faster. Now, most important will be your thoughts on the plan going forward, and we'll be listening. If we adopt the plan, it could help in the near term. There's always the possibility of one of our bridges failing and having to be replaced, or bulkhead failing and having to be replaced. It could give us an opportunity to do some work that might be in the plan. That remains to be seen. It also might give us an opportunity to do some landscaping that would prepare for a future renovation, because as you'll see from Kip's presentation, there will be some changes to the golf course that new landscaping would be going in. Okay. Oh yeah. I'm sure there are a few of you in this audience that are saying, just what it's up on that screen, why do we need to renovate a perfectly good golf course? All right. I'm sure you've seen this golfer out there more than a few times, and that's really one of the reasons why we're going to need to renovate this golf course. All right, let's review what's going to happen on the golf course before 2023. Now hold on, Tim, because I want to ask the audience a question. Okay, first off, we've been averaging about 40,000 rounds a year, a little over that actually. So I'd like a best guess from the audience about how many rounds will have been played by the time we do this next renovation, if it's going to be in 2023. Anybody hazard a guess? How much?
160,000.
300,000. Do I have 400? 500,000? Good guess, Steve. 200. Go ahead, Tim. That's right. Over 500,000 rounds will have been played for the next renovation. 500,000 rounds. Okay, hold up again, Tim. Okay. Next question. Golf and maintenance carts. How many trips of golf and maintenance carts will have gone over the fairways? And in some cases, maybe even onto the greens. All right, everybody have a guess? Anybody got a guess? A million. Oh, okay, that's a little high. Anybody else?
500,000.
Well, we got to divide that by 2 then add the maintenance carts. Go ahead, Tim. About 260,000 golf cart travels over the course. Excuse me, over the golf course. All right. Next one is kind of simple. If we've had 500,000 rounds played, how many feet are going to be, how many pairs of feet are going to be on the greens? About 500,000 pairs of feet will have walked on the greens. All right, this last question now. I want everybody to make a guess. And I will buy a drink for the person that gets within 50,000 of the number of divots that we will have taken. All right. Somebody take a guess. How much?
4 million.
Oh, come on. Another guess. Come on. How many?
20 million.
That's a little high, I think. Well, One more guess.
16 million.
All right. Go ahead, Tim. 17 million divots. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna tell you a little bit of a story. One April morning last year, it was a really beautiful day out here, and the sunlight just was just beautiful. And I'm driving a golf cart from the 4th tee up toward the fairway, and I look out on the fairway, and I see this green carpet, and then I look closely. And all I see is the entire carpet's got a bunch of dimples in it, all divots that have grown in. It was like the entire carpet was one big filled-in row of divots. It was completely covered. It kind of looked like a minefield, to tell you the truth. So that gives you an idea that we've torn up these fairways in a pretty good fashion over the years, and we've got a few more years to go yet. All right, moving on. Okay. The fairway and green contours have changed. All that traffic, just natural settling of the ground. Okay. Now some of it's been subtle, others are more pronounced. If you notice some of the slope around the drains on the fairways, it's gotten steeper. Okay. On some holes, and I can attest to it on the 14th hole today, you hit a ball 15, 20 yards in the fairway, takes a hard kick right and goes in the water. Right here, right here. That's happening on a few holes now. If you remember a few years ago, we put berms in to try to stop balls from rolling into the water. Well, those contours have changed enough, so those berms aren't helping anymore on a few holes. Okay? Okay, and the green contours are changing a little bit too. Every year there's a little bit of a settling or shifting. Each year your putts, roll a little bit differently. The size of the greens can also change over time, as mowing patterns may cause the green surfaces to shrink. Okay. Go ahead, Tim. Okay. Now, with all this, there's some deterioration of the infrastructure. The greens have an underground system to provide drainage and air circulation. All that traffic also has some effect over time. Okay, when 2023 rolls around, we'll have over $2 million in reserves to help offset the cost of any renovation. Now, when we renovate, we could take our golf course and we could fix some of those bad bounces. We could do some infrastructure work, and we could keep our course pretty much as it is. We also have the opportunity to go a little bit further, and we can improve it. We've asked an expert at designing golf courses to make some recommendations. That's what you're going to see today. Now, this is a master plan for the golf course. Let's be clear. This is not yet the renovation plan. This is a concept, not engineering drawings. As we as a community, will decide in the near future whether we want to take this concept and turn it into reality. Now, what does this master plan do? This plan will give us a roadmap for the golf course. We could decide to do some, not all of what is recommended. We can do it later or not at all. This is a plan that will be good for a long time. Now, when we asked Kip Schultheis to help us, we asked him to improve playability and conditioning. Not make the course easier, keep the challenge, and make it a fair test. This plan will make our course playable for all levels of skill, from the tips to the forward tees. Kip makes recommendations that also will help improve conditioning. More and larger teeing areas to provide variety and spread out the wear and tear. Relocated greens to help enhance and maintain their health. and repositioned, regrassed, and contoured fairways for improved playability and maintenance. The plan will have a positive impact on real estate values. We'll have a more attractive and enjoyable golf course. Most important, this plan will make the game more fun to play. In fact, the only possible loser is golf balls galore. You won't be visiting your lost golf balls as much as you used to. So let's put the two together. We'll have a master plan and we have a renovation plan. Let's use the master plan to guide us when we do our next renovation. Let's take a minute to talk about the game of golf. Is it a dying sport? Some people think so. It's true that at its peak in the late 90s, well over 30 million were playing. We know that as the Tiger effect. Today there are still over 24 million people who are playing golf, and in fact the trend has reversed itself a little bit and has shown some increases over the last few years. Stonebridge Country Club is and always will be a golf community. A bundle golf community has a distinct advantage here in Naples, and that will be a major selling point for many years to come. Finally, the golf course is an important asset to Stonebridge. Let's make sure we take care of it. Okay, now it's time to introduce Kip, because I've talked enough. A native of Indiana, Kip Schulteis got into the golf course design business by listening to his mother. 27 years ago, Kip graduated from Purdue University in the Sweet 16 this year with a BS in civil engineering. Now he wasn't sure what he wanted to do. Maybe design roads, maybe design an airport. His mother, knowing that Kip was an avid, near-scratch golfer, suggested he should design golf courses. And as a good son, he took her up on it. Kip proceeded to look up and cold call golf course architects on Florida's East Coast. And for those of you not in sales, cold call means picking up the phone, making a call, dialing and dialing until you find somebody to talk to. Okay? He made a connection. He started from the bottom up. Early in his career, Kip worked his way up, eventually doing design work with Fred Couples and Gene Bates, then struck out on his own. Since then, he's designed new and renovated many golf courses. Among them are Vanderbilt Country Club and Copperleaf Country Club, two bundle golf communities nearby. Kip's plan for Stonebridge is unique and inviting, showing wonderful vision and imagination. Please welcome Kip Schulteis.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you pulling out my high school photographs there, too. Looked good back in those days. Let me give you a little background about myself before we get into this program here a little bit. As Tony was saying, this is actually my 27th year in the business of golf course design. As Tony says, my first 5.5 I spent with Fred Couples and Gene Bates working out of their Palm Beach Gardens in San Jose, California offices. As I heard in the crowd, I think there's a few Boilermakers in here. Yeah, I like it. We're going to do well on Thursday night, I hope. Anyway, I got a civil engineering degree from Purdue University with specialization in construction management. I went on to, while I was working for Couples Bates, going to night school at the University of Miami, getting an MBA in finance and real estate development. 4.5 years ago, I hired Lee Marshall. Lee had spent 10 years with Greg Norman Golf Course Design. He's what we call my senior designer, so you'll see him here on site a lot whenever that project comes to fruition. Graham Mecker has been with me almost 10 years out of Florida International University. Graham does what we call a lot of our CAD, or computer-aided design, Photoshop renderings, a lot of the pretty pictures that we end up developing for these master planning projects. Well, history about the company. I started focusing on renovation redesign way back when we were building new golf courses in the U.S. at an unsustainable rate, as Tony mentioned, the Tiger effect. We were building 400 and 500 new golf courses a year back in the mid-90s. I was given some good advice when I broke out on my own in 1997 to focus on what nobody wanted at the time, and that was renovation, redesign, restoration of existing private clubs, because as hot as any business cycle is, it's a cycle. And everything fluctuates around, and obviously by the year 2008, 2009, we'd seen the opposite of those 400 and 500 golf courses a year turn into 5 or 10. Literally, even today, we're only seeing somewhere between 15 and 20 new golf courses being built in the United States. Coincidentally, 5 of them are going to be here in Southwest Florida this year. But that's 33% of the entire market. So our business these days in golf course design is renovation, restoration, and redesign of existing private clubs. Golf Inc. magazine did an analysis of who were the most active golf course architects during the recessionary years of 2007 to 2012, and we were the 3rd most active firm in the U.S. during that period. Reese Jones was #1. We had done 13 projects over $1 million in the recessionary years. 2015 alone, we did $36 million worth of work in 5 counties down here. We've done almost $94 million in the last 4 years combined, puts us at #1 or #2 on that list of all active architects in the United States. We live in the golf capital of the world down here. We have more golf courses per capita down here than anywhere else, and we've kind of captured this market and made it kind of our home base, if you will. Some of our projects, my office is based in Jupiter, Florida, on the other side of the state. If you ever travel across state, these are some of our higher profile clients, Adios Golf Club in Coconut Creek. A lot of the athletes from the Miami Heat, Miami Dolphins, things like that are members there. High Ridge Country Club gets a lot of acclaim as one of the better golf courses. In fact, it's the top redesigned golf course per Golf Digest in the state of Florida, ranking I think in the top 30 now. Fort Lauderdale Country Club North, we actually start that project next week. Lost Tree Club is where Mr. Nicholas lives. I was brought in to do that project in tandem with Jack back in 2002. Addison Reserve, a Hills Golf Course at Delray Beach, the Boca Raton Resort. Riviera Country Club, a big $9.5 million redesign of a Donald Ross course down in South Miami. Admirals Cove, big project there in 2015, $11 million. Delray Dunes, my first Pete Dye redo. Glen Eagles, Bound Isles, Boca Air, we just reopened Johnson's Lane, the Fazio Golf Course, and then Stonebridge in Boca. I know some of you travel across state and play some kind of a cup you all play in that goes back and forth. So we were given the task of coming up with a plan for Stonebridge back 4 or 5 years ago, and up until this date, that was the most challenging master plan I'd ever done until I got to Stonebridge in Naples. So we'll get to that in a minute. Some of our clients here are more in the local market. As Tony mentioned, Vanderbilt, Copperleaf, we redid Island Country Club in Marco Island in 2017. Looked great right as we finished it, and then Irma came through. Took down a lot of trees there, but still turned out well. Countryside, we start in next week down in Naples. Gulf Harbor, we're going to do in 2020. Fiddlesticks, we just did their weed-friendly course last year. We're regrassing their long mean course this year while we master plan them for a long mean redesign in 2027 next year. Imperial Golf Club, we do a little bit of work there almost every year. A few before and after pictures, just see some of the things we've done. This was Ballon Isles over in Palm Beach Gardens. This is our 13th hole beforehand on the left. What we were proposing on the right, they hated the fact that cart path went down the middle of the fairway, how skinny the approach area was. So we proposed filling in the water on the right, putting the green on the left-hand side with a rock wall. That's what it looked like before. On the same piece of ground, if you focus on the sable palms in the background, they're in the next picture as well. That's what it looks like today. Quite a bit different on the same footprint. Yep. Some of our graphic images that Graham and our office will create. This is what we call two-dimensional CAD work here. We have three-dimensional picture. This is Adios. This is number 1 at Adios, coming down to par 5. It was kind of a blob par 5, being a short par 5 for the... Adios is an all-men's club, so don't keep that in mind, that things are a little more difficult there. They were looking for something that had a little more pizzazz to it. So we introduced water coming across the front of number 1 there. Looks like the picture on the right. This is what it looked like before. Here's what it looks like today. Same footprint of land. Okay? Now, golf course renovations is normal and typical down here. You may say, well, we renovated not too long ago, and while it may be a little more frequent than others, it wasn't a major renovation you did. But golf course renovations are normal and typical down here. We do things much more frequently down here in South Florida than you say if you are members of clubs up north. For the simple reason, we use our golf courses 365 days out of the year. We mow them every day. We run carts on them every day, as Tony said. You're running the irrigation system every day, where a course up north, you may use it until about October, then the irrigation system shuts off, the carts go away, and things get a little bit of a breather in the wintertime. They come back to life back in, in April or May. A standard renovation up north may happen only once every, say, 40 or 50 years. Down here, it's pretty common to do a major one every 25 years and a minor one somewhere in between that. Okay? Just because you're wearing out your golf course. As we say, it's no different than using the appliances in your kitchen or the engine in your car. After you use it long enough, you replace it. Same thing happens on a golf course. Okay? Before we start any master plan, we do what's called focus groups. And the reason why I did this is very, very early in my career. We would get a call from a club like Stonebridge and say, hey, we are ready to think about our long-term master plan or renovation plan. Come meet with our Greens Committee, develop that plan, and let's take it to our membership. I would go to the Greens Committee and walk in the room with pretty much 5 or 6 guys in the room. Most of the time, they were all pretty good players, too. Okay? And we'd sit around for about 3 months and come up with a great plan, phenomenal plan, you know, that they all loved, and we'd take the membership and put this thing up on a screen. You could see some of the ladies in the audience say, did you think about us at all? You know, maybe some of the older men saying, well, why are we having a 200-yard carry? Just because it fits those guys? Well, early in my career, when I was a busy year, was 2 projects, and one of them didn't pass, I felt that in my pocketbook. Okay? If I got delayed or withheld or went off to a different year. So we said, how do we figure out to get more people involved in this process? Because we were only getting success at about 2/3. Every project we go to, 1 out of 3 would fail membership. Well, how do we increase that? Well, the way to increase that is get more people involved with it. So before we start our master planning process these days, I asked the committee to give me four skill sets of members, usually anywhere from 12 to 20 members in each group, of high handicap ladies, low handicap ladies, high handicap men, and low handicap men. And we literally put every hole, we did this here at Stonebridge, every hole up on a screen and said, you know, a renovation is planned at some point in time in the future to be determined. Here in the first hole, we know the green is eventually going to be rebuilt. We know the bunkers are going to be rebuilt. We know the tees are going to be rebuilt. We know the irrigation is going to be replaced. We know at some point in time you're going to regrass your fairway. While we're doing that, should we change anything? Basically, the question I'm asking is, what do you like and what do you not like about, for instance, hole number 1? And if you could change it, what would it be? And it's amazing how the feedback starts coming. And the members will tell you things they like and what they don't like. And if everybody in that group says it's a great hole, we just went on to hole number 2. Okay? What we were doing is we were documenting every comment that came in on a piece of paper. And we would do that for the next 3 groups in tandem. Okay? Now, think about it. High handicap ladies are going to look at the golf course completely different from the low handicap men. And rightfully so. But our goal as a renovation architect is to put together a plan that fits everybody, not just one skill set. So we could take all those comments, we had like 20 pages, single spaced of comments we got out of those four focus group sessions, and we went back to the drawing board and said, you know, if everybody agreed that things were good about that plan, it's the same hole and nothing changed. But if there were things that we could do better based on the membership feedback, we made changes to it. Because the way I look at it this way is a USGA green built to specification that costs about $4.55 a square foot these days in Southwest Florida. It's $4.55 a square foot if I rebuild you the exact same green with the exact same contours, but it's also $4.55 if I completely change it. There's no difference. Okay? A bunker is $2.25 a square foot, rebuilt in its exact same place. Cleaning out the drain lines, taking out the old sand, putting new sand back in, re-edging it. Okay? It's $2.25. It's probably only $2.35 a square foot if I move it 40 yards down the hole, because it's just digging a new cavity. Okay? So you think about it, it gives you the opportunity to change things at little to no cost. Okay? So it gives you the opportunity. We say surgery, going into surgery offers the opportunity to change at little or no cost. And that's what we started getting out of your membership about, if you could change something, what would it be? And the comments started flowing. We took all that information, went to the drawing board, came up with a plan that hopefully addressed as many of those comments as we could, and we took it back to your Greens Committee. And about 4 weeks ago, we said, here's all the comments we got, here's the results of those comments, and then we had a conceptual plan. Now, they looked at it, they thought about it, they gave me some history that I was not aware of, cart path things, you know, things that I would not have been aware of, and say, hey, don't introduce that because we just did that, you know, 8 years ago, and that wasn't going over well. So we refined it from that point in time. The result of that plan is a color rendering of things we're going to show you today, was where we called a concept plan of where we are to date. All right? Now, before we started this, we had to obviously know your constraints here at Stonebridge. We know you're not an overly long golf course as measured from the back tees. I believe it's only 6384. All right? So you're never going to have 7,000 yards. Somebody will ask me, can you get 7,000 yards? No, you cannot get 7,000 yards at Stonebridge. Okay, it doesn't exist. So we are constrained by property lines. We are constrained by, obviously, existing roadways. Existing preserves. There's a lot of preserves area around the property, both preserves and what they call conservation easements. All right? We've talked to 3 or 4 engineering firms. We've got as much possible data on the actual location of those preserve lines. We've talked to the county about getting that, and it's a little bit gray because there's not exactly a plat of those things. That's not a bad thing for you when we come to planning. But anyway, we have to respect those preserves and those conservation easements, and obviously the plan that we've come up with respects all of those things. Property limitations, like I said, there's very limited unused space here. All right, there's not a lot of nooks and crannies where you can expand a fairway or add a new lake or something like that to offset things. Finally, South Florida Water Management District, and that's key here. You see 3 separate drainage basins. Every drop of water that falls on Stonebridge Country Club must be contained within Stonebridge Country Club. Okay, that's the way South Florida rules. All right? Basically, if you had an open flow channel to canals or sloughs or anything else where water flows off your property, an open water channel, everything in the Fort Myers area or Naples area would just flood. I mean, it's designed to go through a specific drainage system. So South Florida Water Management makes you hold your water during any rain event and release it at a design rate through a weir structure and outfall structure. All right? Within your property, there are 3 distinct drainage basins. Okay? So there's a line, basically you've got a couple of preserves that dissect your property that define your 3 drainage basins. Basically, what I'm getting at is if we were to fill a lake somewhere, all right, we must recreate that same storage volume somewhere else within the same drainage basin. That's what makes things a little complex. It's what we do here in South Florida on almost every project. We are required to bring you a plan that is actually permittable. Okay, so we're going to show you some changes today. We've shown you some lake modifications to offset things we're doing to help improve playability. Okay, that's the biggest constraint that we've got. We're very close to solving this issue for you to maximize the use of your property. So now under our hole-by-hole analysis of what's being proposed out there. This hole number 1. Now what we did in our focus group sessions, we showed just this picture right here. It was in color though, of the existing hole number 1. We actually had the preserve limits and the conservation easements on it as well. What we got out of your focus group sessions was, could we generate a little more space on the landing area? Can we make things a little bit wider to make things a little more air? Somebody asked, could we put a bunker out there, not to make things more appealing, just to give a little more eye appeal, okay, not to make things harder. Mark had a point of, hey, we move the green out of the shade on the left-hand side because it's hard to grow grass on the very left-hand side of the green. Well, as it turns out, this area is all a conservation even on the left-hand side. What is on the right-hand side is not, okay? So you can actually take part of this hole and move it to the right just a little bit. Number 1, it gets the green out in full sunlight, gets it maybe a little bit bigger and maybe a little bit of a backdrop and a little bit of containment on the back side. It also allows the landing area to widen just a little bit. So you can buy yourself another 15, 16 yards of fairway width. Okay? Now, it's just the first hole. We're not trying to make the golf course easier, but it's the first hole. So you generally try to make things a little more player-friendly in the first hole. Okay? Generally speaking, though, that's the biggest change in the hole. You still have that bunker on the left. We put a containment bunker on the right, just in case you'd rather you land in it than kick your right into the low area on the right-hand side of the green complex. Okay? The backdrop would have a little bit of elevation behind it to give some backdrop and containment. All right? The rest of the hole stays the same. Now, 2 and 3, there's some noticeable changes here we're proposing. Now, there's nothing I can do with the tee locations. They're kind of wedged in there. We are suggesting you take the cart path more down the right-hand side and empty it to the right-hand side of the beginning of the fairway, not right down the gut of the fairway. Everybody wears it out right now. I've been here a few times this spring, and it's been nothing but dirt there because all the cart traffic is there. There are preserve limits down the left-hand side of the tees right here, but they stop right here. Okay? Now, not to say that we want to move anything left over here. We can pick up a little bit of room here. We are going to have a new cart path going down the right-hand side and try to give you an option of staying on the path here. We'll move this fairway as far right as we can without impacting the fence line. Your fairway is a little bit crowned right there where all your balls tend to fall either the left or right-hand side. We're actually going to reverse that. So everything falls more towards the center a little bit more. All right? Now, the biggest thing we got here is the green complex. The comments we got here is the fattest part of the green has almost got a forced carry over top of this bunker. We got a lot of comments about, can you take this bunker right here and slide it a little bit over left and open the front of the green? Sure. What we did is we did that. It looks like it's bigger here, but what we did is I took this green and I took about 10 yards off your hole and moved it into the approach. Now, the reason I did that is I moved it into your approach this way. I put your bunker where the cart path is down here. The cart path is now going to stay on the outside of the turn point all the way. So you're not driving through this area and really matting that down significantly. By moving this green back a little bit, that dark area that I'm showing right here in the proposed is actually the lake on number 3 expanded behind the green on 2. Now, I'm not trying to make things harder for you. This lake is not right behind the green. Keep in mind, there's easily 30, 40 feet of distance here. All right? So you've got some containment area behind here where you fall off this green now, you fall to a containment area and not onto the cart path over here. Okay? Now, let's start, not with it, we're designing, I don't know who lives behind 2 green. We're not designing it for you, but you get the benefit of having a better view now and some waterfront property. Okay? The real reason we're doing this goes back to that last comment right there, South Florida Water Management. Okay? We're going to correct some playability problems coming up on a few holes later, but to do that, I've got to create some more lake area in order to fill some in to balance things out. So that's the beginning of a new lake creation that's going to help me offset some fills we're going to make. All right? Plus it helps increase some values and lots at the same time. All right? Hole 3. All right? I gave up on the tee that's obviously sitting in somebody's lanai right there on the bottom of the page, right down here. Okay? We moved it out here a little bit because of number 2 green sliding this way and back into the approach zone. All right? So that's that water coming down behind the back tee on number 3. All right? We're also going to buy you a little bit of real estate, widen this fairway out here just a little bit, maybe 10, 15 feet. But I'm also going to do that by, I have to compromise this berm just a hair to buy yourself some real estate there. Okay? Now, there's nothing behind here in the dog park, and this will still be thoroughly vegetated densely along the fence line. So nothing was going to, no, if you live in a home here, you will not see through to the other side. Okay? As we go up the hole, we've added more landing area here at the fairway. Really the big change is from the first landing area into the green. This green complex, we're taking it left, going to fill in the lake over here, put it out on a point. All right? Now we're bringing the lake back with it, but to bring the lake back with it, I've got to compromise some of this berm over here. Now you know how high that is. I'm not trying to take it down, but I got to go about half. So what we're thinking about doing short term is getting some new vegetation established way down here on the fence line, letting it grow until such time as the renovation happens to buffer out the softball fields on the other side. This added lake value creates some better lot value on this side right here. Now it's hard to imagine what this looks like in 2 dimensions. So the concept of the way this looks from about 200 yards out is very similar to the hole that I did at Audios, which I showed you earlier. It looks very much like this. So if you can imagine your third hole, what it is today, looking something like that, let me go back one. Because what we're going to do, we're going to take all this area back here. If you know 4 tees in the background, the back 2 tees back there, they kind of sit in a bowl. There's a berm that goes all the way around them. We're actually going to raise those tees up and create that berm, almost a stadium effect that goes all the way around number 3 green. Okay? By filling it up. It will look very similar to this look right here. Very, very pretty. Now, you'll have a wider approach than what this one does. I'm just showing you an example of something that's close, but I just want to give you an idea of what this will look like. Okay? These are rock walls. Okay? This is cap rock. Why do we use cap rock? About 8 or 9 years ago, I'm driving around Naples trying to come up with a better solution for wood bulkheading. Because I'm now in the business 17 or 18 years. My first project 17 years ago, the wood walls were rotting out. Okay? Hey, we got to replace those walls. We spent $300,000 putting them in back in 1994. Okay? Well, they spent a lot of money on that. And we're driving around Naples, places like the Quarry and other developments around here, and I see all this flattish rock. And I asked around, where do you get this? They said, well, it's all over the place. Nobody wants it. I said, where do you find it? They said, well, go talk to Lennar. I mean, they're digging up this stuff all the time and trying to get rid of it. It's called cap rock, and it's a native rock that's actually on the surface of the ground in southwest and southeast Florida. And it actually comes out in flattish type slabs. And about 8 or 9 years ago, we said, let's try to make a bulkhead wall out of that. Because wood rots, rock doesn't rot. All right? Let's try to do some of that. Sure enough, we could build a rock wall for the same price we could do a wood wall. Because people deemed the material useless. All right? To this day, we're building more rock walls than they are wood walls because it lasts a whole lot longer. It doesn't rot out. Now, I'm not going to tell you over 20 years, it might not sell a little bit, but it's nothing to take the rocks apart and reset them versus buying all new material, rebuilding an entire wall. So your replacement value 15 and 20 and 25 years later is 50 cents on the dollar at most. Pretty simple. Plus, it's got a nicer look, in my opinion. So I'm not advocating you have to do rock walls, but I'm telling you the rock walls and the wood walls are basically the same price. You know, so you have your option. I'm showing you rock walls, but you go either way. We've got rock walls in your plan right now, but again, it's something that we can discuss with the Greens Committee. All right. Hole 4. You can see down there that we bent your green out to the left on hole 3. We're going to elevate these back 3 tees on hole 4, playing off from an elevated tee complex. 4 really doesn't change all that much. This bunker looks a little different. It's just reshaped a little bit. The green is basically in the same place. We put a bunker left of the green simply to keep everyone taking a shortcut with your golf carts. Mark's tired of that wear pattern on left front of the green. So we said, we'll cut that off with a bunker. That's the whole reason that bunker's there. The rest of the hole stays pretty much the same. Okay? Hole 5. Everybody kind of liked hole 5. Thus, hole 5 doesn't really change. Now, it looks a little different here. We dug this space out and made it water because, again, I've got to create water to fill in water, which is still coming, some of it. I showed you a little bit on 3. There's more of it coming. But that was kind of what we call dead space, so we're just going to use that space up and make it water. But 5 is arguably the exact same hole. Doesn't change a bit. Okay? 6. Took the opportunity to take this tee and move it out into the lake more to allow water to expand up this right-hand side. All right? The fairway itself stays the same. I did tweak your bunker a little bit, moved it down the fairway a little bit more to make it more relevant for longer hitters. The green itself is basically the same place. The bunker that was about 20 or 25 yards short right of the green, which tends to catch more higher handicappers, has been moved to the green side to be more relevant to green side bunkers. Other than that, no change at all.
Same trees?
The trees are not there. You see them? Those 3 palm trees and the 1 cypress tree, I think it is? Yeah, they're not there. Anybody, do you want to keep them? You can take a vote on them. And if you like it, if the vote is they want to get rid of the trees and you still like them, we can take them to your house. They transplant real easy. So no, those trees are not in the plan anymore. All right. So no big changes on 4, 5, 6. Now we come up with something on 7 because we got a lot of pushback on 7. And really the pushback was right in here. You know, for those of you who are not comfortable trying to get to this green in 2, this is a big layup zone right here, and there's not much area to lay up here. And if you're really accurate, you hit the end of this cart path and bounce in the back of this guy's house right there. So this is one of our next spots where we're going to try to buy you some more real estate by all that lake that we cut on 2 and 3. We fill a little bit on 3, and fill a little bit more here on 7, and try to buy you some room going into the approach right here. So we've probably filled in almost half of this lake right here, put a new rock wall on it, frame around. It's a nice little oak tree right there on a point. It kind of separates 8 from 7. We're basically just buying you some bailout space right here. You know, this bunker's not here to be penal. It's to keep errant shots from going further into harm's way. Your cart path extends back this way to get on back here instead of all wearing out 1 point. By filling the lake out just here a little bit, the green can move down and away, so you get a little bit of more containment on the backside. Just, again, buying you more real estate around the green complex for playability reasons. Okay? 8. While it's not a big challenge for most of the guys, we heard it was okay. The comments we got were, hey, it's a little bit too long for some of the ladies on this hole, and can you please widen the approach? Okay, so what we did is we filled in some lake on the approach right here. We are going to move that little weir structure out or bury it so it's not in play anymore. So those of you who aim for it, actually, remember to say that on 18 too, okay? All right. Yeah, the big box that every group I talk to complained about that box. Do something with that box. I guess you all aim for it. Most of you hit it, it probably goes backwards. So it will be removed or buried or something. It will still be a weir structure, but it will not be part of your golf hole anymore, per se. So we've actually widened the approach there too, so there's a little more room to lay up short or go right. The green itself didn't really change much. However, you know, the back left portion of the green really falls out hard out the backside. We're going to lift that up so it falls forward. So it helps receive a shot instead of falling away from you. It has some of the same characteristics, you know, the 13, which is arguably your least favorite green on the golf course, 13. So yeah, we're gonna fix some of that too. All right. So like I said, we created some more lake area on 2 and 3. We filled a little bit on 3. We filled in some on 7. We filled in a little bit on 8. Okay, we're kind of playing that balancing act, if you will. 9, I think this is probably everybody's favorite hole. We got very few comments on 9. Everybody seemed to like 9, so 9 doesn't really change much. I mean, literally the only thing I did is I moved the bunker just a little further down to be more relevant to longer shots, and that's it. Okay? Everybody said good hole, we went on to 10. No changes there. All right? 10. One of the least favorite greens, particularly that back left pin placement on the shelf. Yeah. So to improve some playability here, we bought you a little more real estate at the beginning of the fairway over here on this side. All right? We also bought you a little bit of real estate here, but not trying to make the hole any easier. The green still stays out on a point with a new wall on it, but there's a little more wider approach, so not everybody's bailing out over this way. All right, so a little more comfort level to bail out there. We did buy yourself a little bit of real estate along here, a little bit over here. Now to do that, and I'm in another drain basin now that I was on the first few holes. Okay, so again, I've got a new calculation going here. I've got to create some new lake area in this own drainage basin. So what I've done here is I've taken about 10 or 12 feet of lake on this side of the lake away. Okay, now it will not look any different when you drive in. You'll still have the dense vegetation, but I'm going to lose about 10 or 12 feet of it. Go out there and you'll see there's about 40 or 50 feet of land before you go in the lake. I'm going to make it 30 instead of 40, give or take. That 10 feet over that area helps offset what we're filling in on holes 10 and 11. I'll get into in a second. Okay, so that's kind of the balancing act. So the biggest change here, we are expanding. We're going to fill a little bit out here by your tees, so you don't have to replace the wood bulkhead wall here. We're going to buy yourself some real estate at the beginning of the fairway and also at the approach by just trimming off the other side. Okay? The green itself doesn't have to have that 2-tiered green back. If you want it back, I got to make that 2-tiered green a lot bigger. You know, that's something we can talk about in a later phase if you ever decide to approve this project. Okay? 11. I did away with the back tee, the back portion of the back tee, which is way back over here on this angle. Started about right here. You know, your par 3s, we want to make sure, particularly in your par 3s, you have 4 distinct lengths of par 3s, that they all differ in their lengths, they're not the same. So we're moving your par 3s around a little bit. 5 didn't really change. 8 didn't change much. This one's going to shorten and 17 is going to lengthen. We'll get that in a second. So this is going to become a shorter hole simply because this is a hole that everybody complains if you miss the green, there's nowhere to bail out to. So let's just make it a little bit shorter because we need a short par 3 anyway, you know, to make up for variety. So we're going to fill some lake in front and move your ladies' tee forward. I think this is 4 tees. I think are 131 or 127 here. Pretty long for a forward tee on what's DB, the shortest par 3 on the golf course. So we're going to fill this in a little bit, make that carry distance a lot less. We're then going to expand the rock wall out into the water just a little bit. The center of this green is about where the right edge of this one is. By moving that out and putting down a rock wall here, we formalize the edges either in or out. There's no slope anymore. It also allows for now some bailout room on the left-hand side. This bunker here is not made to be penal, although some of you will deem it that way. It's there so if you're going left of the green, you get hung up in the bunker and don't go into the trees and the bushes left. Okay, I'd rather you be in a playable condition than one you can't play from. Okay? Hole 12. Biggest change here. This is the first of a few holes where the carry distance off your 1 and 2 tees has been a bit of a problem. All right, there's a few holes out here. Now, we talked before about your golf course length from your back tees. I'm going to focus on your back tees for a second. 6384 is not an overly long golf course. All right, but yet there's 3, 4, or 5 holes out here at Stonebridge that guys can't use some of the back tees because the carry distance is so far. As an example, when we're designing a 7,000-yard golf course, where guys playing from the 7,000-yard tees, we would never have a carry distance more than 170 yards from those tees. You've got carry distance here at Stonebridge of 150 to 170 yards on 3 or 4 or 5 holes from tees playing 6,300 yards. Normally you would have a carry of about 125 from those tees. Okay? We heard from a lot of men in our focus group sessions about we play those tees, but because of these 3 or 4 holes, we can't. So we tried to figure out how to fix that. And this is the first one we're actually going to bring some of the fairway back toward the back tees, so one to shorten. However, I will tell you, at 441 on 12, it's already a long hole. This could be one we may give up on a little of the back tee yardage and maybe move the back tee here and slide all your tees forward to make sure that everybody can comfortably play down into this area, because it's already going to be a long shot, second shot going in. Okay? Giving that some thought. Now, we've taken your green, we've actually brought it back into the approach by 10, 12, 14 yards, moved it right, moved it down a little bit, so this cart path can go behind the green in a valley that won't be seen from the condos behind. So taking the cart path out of play. Okay? So the hole's going to get a little bit shorter, the cart path's going to be out of the middle of the fairway. The rest of the hole will stay primarily the same. Okay? 13. Everybody's least favorite green. That was very clear to all four groups. They hated this green. So I assure you this green will not fall directly out of the back. It will be pitched forward to you, so it will help receive a shot. All right? The rest of the hole, we have an alternate tee put over here. May or may not happen. This one can definitely happen. I'm always cautious of this distance. That's about 145 yards across there, which is the max I would ever do from that 6,300 yard tee. All right? Just to add a little bit more strategy up the right-hand side to make it more eye-appealing. This is arguably one of your shortest par fours in the whole golf course, so we just want to put a little eye candy to it while fixing the green in the process. The biggest change in this whole entire hole is just getting your green to pitch forward. Okay? 14. We had actually drawn some different concepts in this hole, and it was determined just to leave the hole alone. Okay? I had actually taken the trees out on the left-hand side of the landing area and put a bunker in. That didn't seem to go over too well, so we took it back out. I had put the cart path on the left-hand side of the green in the shadows and moved the green a little bit to the right, but that was a little concern to the homeowners. They said, look, the easiest way to do this is just leave it alone. This hole's not broken, so let's not try to fix it. All right, so we left the hole alone. Not to say you couldn't come up with some things later, but this is one of the holes we said, just respect what's there and move on to 15. Okay? 15, arguably from the back 2 tees, again, one of the hardest holes in the golf course. You know, when you get up to the forward few tees, this is probably one of the widest fairways on the golf course. It's huge out there. Okay? Now, I want you to pay attention to if you pay attention to what Mark did, how long ago did you clear that out? Last year? You know the area left of the approach. It was probably wild and overgrown and probably had some hurricane damage. Doesn't look too bad right now. Cleaned it all out and they look pretty good. We'd like you to do that on the rest of the golf hole. All the way down the left-hand side. Now, what's on the left-hand side? There's a berm over there. Okay? What we're suggesting, though, is in the short term, get some hedgerows started on the fence line. The fence line's way back in there. You know, when you look left of the approach, there's a lot of land over there. Okay? Get some hedgerows started on the fence row, let them grow for a few years, and then you can take some of that berm off, and you'll still never be able to see outside the golf course. Okay? Why am I doing that? Because I want to extend this fairway back over here so that people can now use the 1 and 2 tees. Plus, it also helps the playability from the upper tees as well. So it very limits the forced carry, gets people off the property line. Okay, it makes the golf course playable for all sets of tees instead of 2 or 3 of them. All right? To offset water storage, because I'm filling this in, a new body of water right here, between the first and second landing area. If somebody, you must live there. Your donation just went up. Okay? Yeah, because it does add value to real estate, without a doubt. So who lives right beside you? We'll take donations if they want to extend the lake down a little further than the drawing. No, it's just, the idea is we're introducing water, ideally where it's not overly in play. To keep this in mind, if we are to take some of that berm down the left-hand side, that fairway becomes huge left. The only example I can tell you is look left of the approach right now and notice how much land is over there. That same amount of land exists all the way down the left-hand side of the hole. So by moving your fairway left, it allows you to create this lake area, which offsets this fill right here, and makes the golf hole playable for everybody.
You got a cart path all the way down?
We actually don't. Conceptually, this is just a cart path starting here. Now we took the cart path from this side, and we took it around the back side and brought it back in. Okay, because we had a lot of comments about there's a lot of balls that fall hard right over here, because the slope goes right over here. So we wanted to take the cart path out of play. So we put it up on the high side where it'd be less likely to be in play. Okay? It's actually, you have to see my judgment on this. It's actually a very pretty hole the way this will be built, assuming that hedgerow gets built on the property line over there. And we fix the playability problem. All right, 16. I'm not sure how to say this. A lot of people like this hole, and I always thought somebody was going to say, take that darn tree out of the approach area, and nobody wanted to. Not even ladies. They like the tree, so the tree is still there. It is still there. Right. Nothing's changed here. The biggest, the approach area is basically the same, although I put a wall on it, because what the wall is going to do is it buys me about 20 or 25 feet of real estate versus having everything on a slope. So you buy some more real estate that way, because we got some comments about, can you make that a little bit wider in there, but don't make it any easier and don't take the tree out. Okay, well, the only way you're going to do that is just buy yourself some real estate by going vertical and then doing that. So we put a new wall right there. The green is actually in the same place, although the water left of the green has been filled in. Okay? We also filled in this little nook right here that some people can reach off the tee. Okay? I gave up on the back tee too. This guy back here. And the reason I gave up on it, this is about 160 some, 170 some yard carry right there. This is one I can't really bring the fairway back because I'll offend whoever lives here. I mean, I can't fill in water behind somebody's house when they bought a house on water. So trying to respect that, we're taking the back tee and we're just extending the back tee back where this little turnaround is right there and playing straight away that way, and that makes it only about 135 yard carry. Makes it usable from the back tee. Okay? So I gave up a little bit of yardage there. At the end of the day, for those of you who are wondering for the back tees, I keep focusing on the back tees because the back tees are the constraint of the length of the golf course. The rest of the tees can be set up any way you want. You've actually got pretty good spread here at Stonebridge. When you look at all your other tee placements, even your 4 tees, you got one at 4,400, one at 4,700. We could actually put one down as an option at 4,000. We're doing that with a lot of clubs these days, just give options. It's not hard to do. The constraint is the back tee. Because you're just not going to have, there's no more land to be had out here, but we want to make sure you can use it. Okay? So at the end of the day, with all these little changes I've been talking about, your back tee yardage will still be over 6,300. Be 6,320 or 6,330, something like that. All the cuts and minuses, you're still only down 50 yards in the whole scheme of things. Just so you know. All right? 17. All right? We got several questions about why we're Stonebridge and yet we don't have a stone bridge. And where can you put the Stonebridge? Okay? So everybody's suggesting because there's an existing bridge going from 16 to 17, can't you put it there? I said, well, you can, but you won't see it. Because if you're going to spend money on a bridge, on something that looks nice, be able to see it. This water is so skinny back in here that you can't get a good view of it from a long distance. I went back here on the entryway back this way, trying to look the long view of it, because the bridge would be so close to the road, all you'd see is just the cart path going over the top of it. You wouldn't actually see the bridge. If you want to do a focal point bridge, make sure you can see it. So we just said, you know what? Mark's got all kinds of problems on this green complex. That's why he's got a big fan sitting in the woods back there, because he can't get any airflow back in that corner. Since I can't get your Stonebridge in back in here, let me just fill this cove in back in here, bring your tees back, and let me bring the green out to the water's edge, where it's out in full sunlight, full airflow. Agronomically, it makes 110% sense. Okay? And let me put your bridge right here. See this little neck right there? Because what happens when you're playing 16, you get to look through this thing. When you're playing around either 10 and 18, you look through this thing and you drive over on 17, so you get view of it from 3 holes. You get better bang for your buck, as we say. Purely an option. The Stonebridge is purely an option. Not a necessity, but it's something that everybody asked for. Where can we do it? The only place we put a bridge out here is on hole number 5 as an option. You could do it there, but you're only getting value on hole number 5. Now, I'll apologize to those people on hole number 5 if we're not giving you first, primary consideration there, but this one you have view from 3 holes. So we pull the tees back, we pull the green closer to the water. I told you we shortened hole 11. This is now going to be the longest par 3 on the golf course. Okay, it went from, 164 I think it is today? It's going to be 200 now from the back tee. It's going to look like this. Okay? It's going to look like that. Now, the only difference being, this is actually happens to be a hole that I showed you earlier from Ballin Isles Country Club that we did. The only difference here at Stonebridge is this approach area will be much wider than this. This This green complex I'm showing you is on a 165-yard hole. If I was doing a 200-yard hole, I got to make a much bigger landing area out front. So go back a screen. I want you to pay attention how much wider this is right there. And by making that a lot wider, now the cart path can go back and service the green and not be in play like it is now, short right. Okay? We're going to take questions as soon as we're done, I promise you. Okay? We're almost done here. So anyway, if you went forward, it would look, your green complex would look something like that on 17. Solves all of Mark's problems, gets full sunlight, full airflow, solves an access issue getting back there into the corner of the woods. What we do at that space, in the backside where that is, we turn that into a lake. Because that's some of that lake that we filled in. See this little cove here? We filled that in. We actually had to fill in this little body of water here. That helps offset that. So it's about, again, that balancing act I talked about. Right? That'll just become part of the preserve back there in the woods. Okay. You get two options on rock walls. That's what we call a rock culvert. That's the cheaper version. All right, that's actually a Contec pipe. Contec makes the pipe that is at Augusta National on number 12. We buy their Contec pipes. They're about $15,000 a piece for the pipe. That's a galvanized aluminum pipe with 6-inch ribs that lasts 100 years. All right, so it doesn't go anywhere. This is the same cap rock that we're showing on the walls. So this whole structure here costs about 50 grand. This little gem right here costs about 125,000. So we don't do memorial trees on our projects. We do $100,000 checks for memorial bridges, though. If anybody's wanting to donate. So, just a thought for something to consider. All right, finally on 18, we looked at several different options on 18, trying to solve some issues here. I even suggested once about making this a par 4, because you were looking for more room around the clubhouse. Because again, we're thinking outside the box here, because we know there's things here at your clubhouse that you're looking for room for. You know, there's other amenities that every club is looking for, whether it be bocce ball courts or pickleball courts or you name it. Everybody's asking me things. How do you make more room? Generally speaking, almost any renovation we go to, we're trying to find room around the clubhouse. Now, coincidentally, before I was hired here, you've already engaged an engineering firm to help you try to offset some land out here to generate some more mass out in front of the clubhouse on the left-hand side. In hindsight, though, everybody seemed to like 18 as a par 5, so we put 18 back as a par 5. The only thing we did differently is we showed a rock wall here to stay consistent instead of a wood wall. That's it. Okay? No other real changes there. I mean, I put one bunker here just trying to keep you away from this worn out area so I can bring a cart path back here and just make it accessible. But there's not much I can do with 18. That preserve line on 18 is right up the left-hand side right here. There may be a few little trees we can open up a little bit, but there's not much we can do on the left-hand side there. So 18 will stay as it exists. Everybody seemed to like the green itself, being able to look at it from the clubhouse, so no bigger change there. Lastly, you will have targets in your driving range, even though they're not shown in this picture. You know, there's been comments about, can we extend the range? Technically, no, you can't. You've got preserve limits behind the range, the same ones left in number 1. There's the possibility of picking up a little bit of room right here, maybe getting your chipping green a little bit bigger, maybe by moving a tree or two, but you're real constrained here. Really what I'm showing you is more on this area. There's a lot of congestion down here around the putting green and the driving range tee. Part of it's because your cart path there is really not wide enough. So what we're doing in here, we're allowing parking on both sides with your 10-foot deep parking stalls and 14 feet of concrete in the middle. There's a turnaround here so you can turn around comfortably, so you're not having that congestion problem that you have now. The other way you're going to pick up room, the putting green itself will be more level, so half of this area is not sloping hard down to the north. All right, so now I'm going to squish it down a little bit. By squishing it down, I mellow it out, but I also I gather room that way. Same thing on your range tee. I'm going to squish it down a little bit. Squishing it down is going to buy me 1 or 2 stations on either side of it without increasing its width. Just by moving it down, I'm not taking away slope. Okay? We will push every envelope on the left-hand side and the back side trying to pick your length up, but I got to be very cautious because we're dealing with Collier County and that kind of stuff. Same thing applies to Short Game area. Okay? Overall concept plan. With that, I will either turn it back over to Tony or open it up for questions or anything else you got. Stay up there. Questions? Sir in the back.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment, not a question.
Yes, sir.
I came here very nervous that I was going to stand up here and say something and get ridden out of here. And it's based on the fact that we do have a name, Stonebridge, and I want to speak in favor of that. We need a signature. old signature bridge.
Yep.
And they got it in St. Andrews, they've got it at Augusta, and we're talking about enhancing our value of our properties here, and I think it would be a wonderful addition to put in that stone bridge.
I don't think you're alone in that comment. Look, every group that we talk to asks me about that. You know, where do you put that?
Can you repeat what he said?
No, his comment was, you know, basically referencing the name of your community here and the fact that you don't have a stone bridge, and we need something that is one of the signatures of our community, a very well done stone bridge.
Do they have a stone bridge on the East Coast?
They have rock wall culverts. They have rock wall culverts. So does that mean you're going to have to one-up them? I'll tell them that. I know you guys would. Yes, sir.
Some years back, I was playing the golf and we discussed the Stone Bridge. And we come from 5 up to the 6 tee box. We discussed putting a tee box out in the middle of the lake with a bridge going to that. Just a thought, it didn't get off the ground because I think it'd be expensive at that time. So
They're not cheap. In fact, I actually drew, I don't know if you saw the picture, I drew the tee actually out in the lake and let the water come up the right-hand side. It actually helps some property owners there, plus it allows me to generate some more lake area going up the right-hand side, but not reaching 7. So I actually showed that concept on here. Whether we could put a bridge in there is certainly a point of discussion. Look, I just picked the most obvious spot that I could see it there on 17, there where you could get a view from 16 and 18. That doesn't mean this is a concept plan. It's up for changes, up for discussion. Yes, ma'am.
So still on 17, you're going to have to turn around and come back at the people that are driving.
You will, because what is to your right? I think there's a wood walk bridge there.
Yes.
Yeah, that is a preserve that you technically can't modify. Now, maybe they can let you widen that wood bridge through there. I don't know. We'd have to ask Collier County on that one. But yeah, in theory, you still have to drive backwards to go out. Sir, you had a question right here?
Yeah, one of the biggest concerns I have in terms of the practice facility, and many people do, is that we don't get to practice off grass very often. Most of the practice, if not all of it's off an artificial tee, and you only get to practice off grass as you're going into a tournament or whatever. Is there any consideration been given to extending the grass tee further down the practice fairway and either solving the distance problem with invisible netting at the end or balls that don't go as far?
Those are all options. I mean, I won't make those decisions for you, but
Any consideration been given to it so far?
those two things, no, not yet. But if you say let's build another tee out here, that's actually easily done. That's not hard. It's just when you're standing on that tee, you're right. You almost need to do something on this end because anybody, let's use Tim, Mark, Eric. I'm Sally. You probably do too. Probably drive it through your range into your trees down there. So the idea is, particularly, you have all the room in the world to expand your tees forward. It's just, as everybody's using that forward tee, how many balls are getting lost out in the woods on the back end. So you're right. Maybe it's some combination of maybe there's something, a net in behind some trees back there where everything can, those are certainly things that can be discussed. Yes, ma'am.
Probably 2 or 3 years ago, we took out all the cart paths. So are we talking about putting back in cart paths, or?
No, the cart path that I'm showing on here is I will call it a placeholder because I'm aware that you took some out, and the intention is not to put them back everywhere. It's just there's some critical spots. I'll use number 2 as an example. Whether we go back with a concrete path, it may just be a soft path. There's so much traffic getting funneled in one spot on number 2. That I'd rather you wear down a cart path than keep wearing out that dirt at the beginning of your fairway. But no, the intention is not to put cart paths back wall to wall. It's just only the most critical areas.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is the short game practice area at all enlarged in that photograph?
We are going to enlarge it as much as we are legally allowed. And that really comes down to the county. Mark knows what I'm talking about. I mean, you're already pushing the envelope there, and we will keep pushing the envelope until they basically say no more. We will use every ounce and then some of room that we've got there. But it is bigger. I can't tell you today exactly how much bigger because The preserves are, we talked to 3 engineering firms, we talked to the county, and they don't have the preserves quote unquote platted, which means they're kind of a gray, it's kind of a gray line. Even the county admitted we don't have it, it's not like there's a meets and bounds survey. It's just, it's about here based on some environmentalist decision. So it's gray, but we will use, you know, assuming you go forward with this at some point in time, we will pick up every usable ounce there. Everybody's asked me about, can you make bigger short game area? I'm not going to jail over it, but we'll try. You know? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Based on your past experience, how long would a project like that take?
You would start a project like this sometime around April 1st or whatever year that is. And again, there's no time frame for this implementation. You know, the target, if you were even approved the scope work, it's still to be determined, is 2023. You would start around April 1. You would be done sometime later in August. You'd be back open at Thanksgiving. We do it 4 or 5 times a year down here. You know, and if you want to give us a little cushion on that, give us 9 holes the 3rd or 4th week of March. You know, because they can only they can't start on 18 holes at once when you're a contractor. So give us 9 holes and then close the next 9 2 weeks later, and then that ensures you'll meet your back end schedule. Yes.
I'd like to echo the idea of maybe looking at shortening the length of the range. We play reciprocals. We played one today where the maximum shot was 170 yards, and it didn't diminish, you know, the driving range. I'd like to just give you one person's opinion. I feel that the practice green and sand trap is at all costs should be improved, even if it means low velocity balls or something that shortens the range.
Fair enough.
And steal some space.
No, those are good comments, and you know, everybody's looking for a way to improve that, and we're all just trying to do it legally. You know, I would love to go clear some trees out for you and link that thing by 300 yards, and I can't do it. I just can't. County won't let you. So we have to come up with a better solution. Expanding tees forward, as you suggested, can happen all day long. We just have to complement that with something on the back end, so you're not buying new range balls every other week.
I want range balls.
So, yes, ma'am.
Do we know what percentage of our walls are wood right now versus what percentage of our walls will be wood and rock once this project is done?
Well, again, I'm not going to determine what material you use. I showed you conceptually what rock would look like. Rock and wood are within 10% of the same price of each other. Okay, so it's really, all I would say is it looks better if you stick with the same theme throughout. So if you're going to redo your walls, do it in the same material throughout. It gives a nice theme to the golf course. But no, there's no, you know, right now all you have is wood walls. There's no rock. You've got some riprap out there. That's not wood walls, that's just riprap. Some rock, but you have no rock walls out there right now.
You know,
Hang on, I'm trying to think.
one is Vanderbilt and the other one is the Colony. It has pass-pollen grass. Would you recommend that?
Would I recommend it?
Yes.
No.
What was the question?
I love pass-pollen, don't get me wrong. I love it. Looks great. Looks great this time of year. Looks great from November to April. Okay? Beautiful. Expensive to, you know, you got to be willing to open up your wallet for pass-pollen. It's expensive to install, it's expensive to maintain, and it's really hard to keep Bermuda intrusion out of it. There's a whole, pass-pollen had its big wave back in the 04, 05, 06, 07 time frame. There was a lot of golf courses on the East Coast that switched over to pass-pollen, and 6 and 8 and 9 years later switched back because they couldn't keep Bermuda from coming back into it. Now, if you're willing to throw the wallet at it and pay the price to keep the Bermuda out of it, it's beautiful stuff. It's beautiful stuff. It's just hard to maintain. I'm not opposed to it. But if you're a cost-conscious club at all, you'll go in another direction. But again, that's not my decision to make, that's yours. And that's something you should talk to your greens committee about, and they should evaluate all the grasses that are available when the time comes to make a grass selection. Yes, ma'am.
Most of the changes that you've shown are in the formation of the holes. What about the contours of the greens and the contours of the fairways?
The details of that really, realistically, would not happen until you got in the design phase of your project, where we do what's called 1-foot contour grading plans. And we would not go through that effort or expense until you actually said, let's go forward with this project. There's a lot of money involved with that. There's a lot of time involved. There's a lot of, you need to engage a team of people to go forward with your project before you get into that detail. Generally speaking, your greens will get larger. It's not uncommon. I think Tony hit on it. The size of greens do get smaller over time because the grass on the outside of the greens is actually stronger than the grass on the greens itself. And it keeps fighting that battle, and the stuff on the outside keeps winning. And it's very small, but every year that grass on the outside comes in another inch, inch and a half, 2 inches. It's not uncommon for a green that's 10 or 12 years old to have lost 300, 400, 500 square feet of green space. It's normal. It's normal. It just happens. And that's why greens down here, you rebuild them every 25 years, you renovate them probably every 12 or 15. Yes, sir.
I appreciate that a lot of hard work's gone into this. I think it's beautiful. Tony said at the beginning we'll have about 2.1 million in reserves to use. What is your swag guess of what this grandiose plan might cost?
Upwards of 5-something million.
So essentially there'd be borrowing or something to do everything as you showed, I guess.
Yeah, we don't design, we don't put together plans based on what we want to do. We do things what we hear you all asking for, and trying to address every problem that's possible, every possible problem, how to address it. Put it on a plan and then put a number to it. We don't have an exact number to it. It's still in flux, but it's in that lower 5 range, something like that, based on today 2019, 2020 project budgets. But that's everything. I mean, now I will share you that if you were completely rebuild this golf course, you'd add another $1.5 million at least. Okay, because we're salvaging some cart paths here. We're salvaging 2/3 of your irrigation system here, because your irrigation system really isn't old enough to tear up yet. You've got good life left in your irrigation system. But when you start moving greens around, moving tees around, you're going to what we call cut and cap your system, rebuild it, and you just put the new heads around your greens. So we've allocated, $500,000 towards that as a ballpark placeholder, if you will. But again, there's been no value engineering done here yet, none whatsoever. It's just here's where we are to date, because now we're looking for feedback, comments. Where do we go from here? Where do we get it right? Where do we get it wrong? What do you like? What do you not like? It's not my golf course, not my blank canvas to go play with. It's yours. I will respect everything you want to do here. I'm just trying to help you solve every problem or every concern that you brought up. We try to fix it. Yes, sir.
And I don't want to hold you to these numbers or anything, but the last time we did a renovation, we tore up everything, fairways, greens, everything. When you talk about that kind of number, does it contemplate that you're going to be tearing up all the fairways and the greens and everything, or just making these little fixes?
We can do, this contemplates that everything out here would be dirt. Okay? Now, but again, we don't have to.
No.
We don't have to. But what I always want to do is give you a number that's, I will say, covers everything and is on the higher side of things. And you have the option as a club to say, let's do this and let's not do that. There are ways to scale this back. Some will make sense, some won't. But it's not for me to just make that decision. It's your golf course. Okay, your greens committee, your board will help make those decisions along with your input.
Well, the reason I asked that is because we budgeted 2.3, which I assume contemplated that tearing up the fairways and greens and everything and not making a lot of changes.
Probably so.
Right.
So
the extras, the changes, add about $2.5 million.
Reserve studies typically put money in to replace it in kind. Replace it in kind. Nothing changes, which means, hey, those 4 or 5 holes were problematic for some of the guys. There's still those big long force carries. Nothing changes. So yeah, it's replacement in kind is what it is. Yes, sir.
Well, it's a given that we all hit straight golf balls. Looking at
Really?
these pictures, when you were moving tee boxes, it has been an issue of balls hitting houses and breaking. When you lay this out, is that a concern, or have you built that into changing the tee boxes?
Like these two tees right here at 16, aiming this way.
Right. Exactly.
Yes, we actually do.
Precisely the right.
Well, that's the one that came to my memory. Because I always look at that from the air, I'm like, wow, unless you're lined up right, you're going right. I'm a big advocate of the proper T alignment helps. It's a mental thing. It's absolutely a mental thing, but there's something about proper T alignment that makes you steer the right direction. So yeah, all of our tees, what we do is we build them. You'll put a stake here. You'll put a stake out at about 750 feet out in the center. That's off the back tee. We will survey that stake, and all your tees will align to that middle of that fairway point. We build tees square in the dirt, so they have exactly proper alignment. We then put a 10-foot radius on every corner. All your tees are a minimum 30 feet wide with a 10-foot radius because that's allow his triplex to make one last pass on the tee versus driving off it 4 times. So it minimizes maintenance, but gives you proper alignment at the same time. But yeah, tee alignment is big here. I see there's several tees that aren't lined the right way. What else you guys have? Over here. Yes, sir.
I applaud your asking input from low and high handicap men and women in this design phase, and this is more a comment for the golf committee and the board. I think that should continue all the way through this process because golf committees tend to be low handicap golfers, and there are nuances that the higher handicap golfers may find very frustrating in their game. Speaking for myself here too, but I think it's critically important if we're going to have a playable course that input continue.
No, absolutely. The one thing, I'm surprised nobody's asked me about the length of other tees. Now, I made a comment about the length of the back tees. I made a comment about the forward 2 tees, their overall length. Once you go into the design phase, I generally like to sit down with the various skill sets, particularly the ladies, and let you lay out your own golf course to some extent. All right. So if there are holes that are, I know the holes that are already problematic for you because you told me. But if there's a way you want to set up your golf course, I'm a big believer in at least 2 sets of ladies' tees, although we don't call them ladies' tees anymore. You probably make up 35–40% at least of the play on the golf course. You know how many golf courses we go into where the guys have 3 and 4 choices and the women have 1? We've kind of made that a little bit different these days where you get at least 2 or 3. So, setting up that golf course, to your point, with the various skill sets is important when you go into the design phase. Yes, sir.
Listening to this project reminds me of what this Stonebridge Club went through when we redid this beautiful facility that we're standing in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that point, the membership was given some options. You can go gold and pay X thousand or X million, silver and pay less, and bronze and pay less. So the number you gave us was over 5 million.
Correct.
If there's 700 doors in this community, that's over 7,000 per door. Is there an opportunity for you to give us a $4 million proposal, a $3 million proposal, let the membership talk about all of that and get back to the appropriate committees?
So that's where I would go back to your I do have to rely on your greens committee or your board a little bit to help make those decisions. I said before there's been no value engineering here done. There's been no cost alternatives done here. It's just here's the plan that I ideally addressed as many of those concerns and comments as we could, and that's how we did it. We don't design to a number. We fix every problem and then here's the number, and that's where you're at. You have every right to sit there and say, let's not do all of those things, let's only do this. But again, that's not for me to decide, that's for you to decide. Yes, sir.
What kind of grass do we have on our fairways now, and is that the type of grass that you would recommend on a redo?
I have to defer to Mark on that. What do you have on your fairways now, grass-wise?
Predominantly celebration.
Predominantly celebration, which means you have some other things in there. Celebration has been the grass over the last 10 years that has been the dominant choice. Not the only choice, but the dominant choice. Gentleman in the back made a comment about pass bound. There's still a little bit of pass bound around, not much of it going in right now, but there's been some new turfs that have come out. Every 10 years some new turfs, and as golf course designers we love it because you all think about changing grass and you just build a project. There's things called bimini. Bimini's catching some hold. In fact, we're going to be doing Bimini at Countryside this year. We're down to Celebration or Bimini at Gulf Harbor next year. There's Latitude 36, which has caught some attraction over the East Coast, although I don't think it's going to happen. It's a product called Tiff Tuff, which is very similar to Bimini. I'm not expecting you to know all these things because they're new. But, you know, unlike 5 years ago, there was really only 1 or 2 choices. Now there's 3 or 4. And it would be very hard today to make a decision on what you go. You want to wait till you get closer to that, and there's some history with some of these new grasses before you make a decision on that. Do we get them all?
Well, thank you all for coming. I hope you're enlightened. I hope you feel as good about this as I do. We have some time to plan, but we have a direction. We have a roadmap that we could follow. And I think the bottom line is that we can have a much, much improved golf course and much more fun to play. So keep that in mind. I appreciate all your questions. I thought they were great questions. I appreciate Kip, the work he's done to date, and I look forward to seeing this golf course become a reality and see it have all these wonderful changes done in the next few years. Thank you for coming.